Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
What all changes when you scale a recipe? Pitching the wrong yeast, ball lock disconnect stuck on the post, and grains and hops to always have on hand. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 264. Hello and welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing. Today, I'm joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com. Right over there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Chief Kegwasher of kegconnection.com, right down below me, Mr. Todd Burns. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hey.
I've been pushing the wrong buttons. I mean, everything was heard and seen, except I thought, oh, I'm pushing the button to go from the title screen to Zoom, and it didn't at first, and then I corrected it, and then it was on our grid view, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go to solo view, and then it goes back to I'm just messing it up. Anyway, I can start killing the music. Guys, it is a bitterly, frigidly cold Texas winter day. What was it this morning when we got up? It was like 22?
22.
Yeah, 22. And tomorrow, I'm told it's going to be in the mid-teens. It's going to be like, I read 14, I thought, and Todd was like, no, it says 15. Or was it 17?
It was 17, and now it's 19.
No, it's 19. It keeps going up, which I'm okay with. We didn't have any precipitation, so that all I ever worry about with this weather is if there's any wetness as well, people go crazy on the road. We just don't, down here, we just don't know how to drive.
We don't have winter.
Yeah.
Well, and to be fair, I don't think anybody in the world knows how to drive on ice. That's what we get is ice. And wet, slippery ice is difficult to drive on.
Very difficult to drive on, indeed. But we especially get picked on by Northerners when, I'm wearing a sweatshirt over my brewing shirt and I had a big winter coat, and I tell someone, oh yeah, because it was 24 degrees, and they're like, oh, 24, that's like a nice spring day. I'm like, okay, jerk, come here.
But it was what, 70 yesterday and 80 the day before?
I know.
Yeah, it was. I have to say though, I've noticed something that when I travel to really cold places, like some places we go in Germany or go to New York or somewhere like that, I've noticed that people wear coats all the time. So I'll start to get hot and I'll be walking around in a shirt with my coat slung over my shoulder, and anybody in a cold climate's looking at me like I'm crazy. It's like I swear, Germans put their coats on the first time it gets cold in Germany and do not take them off until summer.
Yeah, and then never comes off.
If they have a warm day, it doesn't matter. They still wear their coat because it's winter, by God. So
exactly. Oh yeah, I remember when we were at the Brow 2018 or whenever it was, and getting made fun of by them because I was freezing. Like, oh Josh, it's not that bad. No, it's freezing. I don't know what you're talking about. You Germans, they're built differently. I do have small talk before we get into the show. Todd, can we start off the small talk? I wanted to talk about our night of making cider last night, our cider making night. I don't know how much you want to divulge as to what happened, but we had an interesting night making cider. We're going to have cider.
We made cider. I don't know what you're talking about.
It was all very sanitary, James. You haven't heard the story yet. We took home a cider kit.
Very carefully opened the packet so we wouldn't get any bad things in there, you know.
And I don't know why were you letting it balance on its? He opens up.
No, there was. I mean, that's just how it sits. There was no. I mean, unless you put boxes around it or something, that's how it sat, and it seemed very stable. But all of a sudden, it just fell over and went across the counter. But it's like a syrup, so it's super thick. So we just stuck Josh got on one side with the pan that we already had the water boiling in, and I just scooped it across my countertop that probably hadn't been cleaned in a while, and put it into the thing. And we were like, well, that doesn't seem very sanitary. So we just decided to boil it. We boiled it, and it didn't seem to hurt anything. So I figure if it's boiled, it's sanitary now, right?
You're not
Absolutely
wrong. And the funniest part is we went on, added our sugar, topped off the water, did the whole process, and he took a gravity reading, and we hit our numbers. We were spot on. It didn't affect. It's not going to affect the batch at all, in regards to alcohol content.
And the kit that we used was out of date.
Oh, so, that too. Yeah, that too.
It was like 4 months out of date. But that's the reason we used it. Is we were like, this is out of date. We can't sell it. Let's just make cider because we've never made cider before. And I'm kind of lukewarm on cider. Like I've never had a strong desire to make cider, but I do remember that one time in Portland when we had that cherry cider, and we were all like, cider, we're not really cider people, but I guess we'll try it. And then we were like, damn, we really like this.
That was at McMenamins, the Kennedy School up there in Portland. I remember it vividly because I remember just how you described it. We were like, the waiter, we went to one of the mini bars. I say M-A-N-Y, not M-I-N-I. They have a multitude of bars on this old elementary school campus. And we went to one that was like, I'd say a basement type level. It was downstairs. And the waiter, we're like, well, what do you suggest? And
it was actually outside in the courtyard.
I thought we had the cider inside. At the
outside.
Yeah, outside in the courtyard.
I don't remember. I thought it was like the
waitress suggested it. I remember.
It was so funny. This was 4 years ago, and James and I remember exactly what happened.
I don't think. Wait, but the outside one is when we heard the people arguing. That was the same time we had the cider.
Yep, that's when we had cider.
I thought it was that dude inside in that one inside bar because we're like, "What do you recommend?" And he was like,
"Well, maybe you had the cider in there, but James and I had it outside."
Oh, maybe that's what I just how I remember it was. We had pizza outside. And we heard that people upset at their waiter, yelling at them, making a scene, threatening to fight them, and then storming off. And then when they left,
booing them.
The people were booing them.
Yeah.
I remember I remember the beer I had out there, and then I thought we went inside to this one bar.
Okay, it doesn't matter.
I know. Either way. The cider was good. See, no. You realize I'm right now, and then you're like,
no. I know you're wrong, but nobody else wants to hear you try to convince us that you're
because you're
right
wrong.
When we both know you're wrong. So let's just move on.
Lord have mercy. Yeah,
there's enough gaslighting in the world.
And 90% of it's Todd doing it to me. He's like, when I'm like, wasn't this week pay week? No, that was 8 weeks ago. Wait, what?
This week is not paid week. You're not getting paid.
Anyway, so yes, our cider mishap. Also, this isn't really a mishap, but it was a weird coincidence. Last week we talked about Todd. One of the questions was when your fermentation doesn't take off, and you were like, "Oh, that just happened to me." Well, darn it, James, you brewed. Is it a Pilsner? And you pitched how many pats of yeast?
Well, we had a brew day. Coy came over and he brewed on the Grainfather for the first time. He brewed a what was it? It was a
beer.
Yeah. And then I did another just throw together Pilsner recipe. And actually it was a Helles, if I'm being accurate. And I pitched 7 packs of yeast, German lager yeast. We were 10:58 when I pitched the yeast. Went home that Monday morning. Usually I'm nothing, absolutely nothing. It was still at the gravity it was when we left Friday. It's frustrating because Todd had just had this happen.
I emailed Yeast and told him exactly what happened, but I never heard back from him. But I don't know why that's happening because both of our yeast were still in date.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my follow up. Was your yeast was in date, right?
Yeah, and we should disclaimer here because we know we are sponsored by other than Yeast Imperial, but the reason we were using Yeast is that we had a bunch in our cooler and we were like, we should use this because we're not selling it anymore. And we want to try to use some up, and we'll just, double or triple pitch it because we're so used to Imperial and it always takes off. We'll just put so much in there that there's no way it won't take off.
And we did not have any of the Imperial we wanted to use either.
Yeah, we didn't have any. So anyway, we used a different one and it didn't work and we were disappointed, and we had to you did the same thing I did, right, James?
Yeah, I pitched some dry lager yeast, the 34/78. I put that on there and went to working really good.
It's going to town right now.
Man, you know what? Yeah. And mine has. I don't. God,
and Todd, you did the same. You did the same.
I think I did like 7, and then I added more, and still nothing happened. And then I put dry yeast in. And it's so funny. I poured so much freaking yeast in that thing, and I you tasted it yesterday or the day before, Josh, right?
Yeah,
and
last night.
It tastes fine.
It tasted fine. Yeah, it's going to be. Like I said with the cider, as his arm hairs getting in the stickiness going into the kettle. If this turns out really good, we can't replicate it. We can't do it. We're not going to be able to replicate it. It's like your lager, Todd. You're not going to be able to replicate it. If it turns out to be the best you've ever brewed, you're like, okay.
No, next time I'm just going to put 7 packets of yeast, wait 4 days, and then put some dry yeast in there.
Oh, yeah. That's a dig. Funny though, but yeah, I just thought that was so interesting because I heard it going and I was like, wait, when did you brew that? Because why is it still going so strong? You're like, yeah, it didn't start off strong at all. It actually didn't start off at all.
I mean, to be fair, they were at the end. They were like maybe a month away from, or 2 months away. They were.
Oh no! Oh no!
That screenshot.
Oh, Todd, this is fantastic.
We just lost Todd.
Yeah, I don't know if that was his drink that spilled all over his laptop.
Can y'all hear me?
Oh, we hear you.
Yeah.
My whole computer just fell off the desk along with 20 other things. I don't know what happened.
Oh no!
Your face.
Yeah, there was a screenshot that went still, and you had this surprised look on your face.
I shouldn't laugh because there's thousands of dollars of equipment you probably broke. But your face.
Did your desk break?
I don't know what happened, but I'm glad you can still hear me. So
yeah.
I'm sorry, but I forgot what I was saying.
You were saying blah, blah. And we're back from that mess. Todd,
I'm okay.
Tell everyone. We thought. Well, I mean, obviously it was an equipment failure because if you were having a stroke or something, your computer wouldn't have died. But your face was the look of sheer terror as then Todd Burns disappears from the chat.
Oh, my fairly expensive laptop just fell off the desk.
Like the cider just fell over on the table. Todd, you have a track record of devices finding autonomy and tipping over. Do you want to explain yourself? Like, how did the laptop fall off by itself?
Gravity, I think.
I like the condescension, the subtle like Josh Newton, gravity. Idiot. Anyway, I forgot what we were talking about, so I'm going to just move us forward. I introduced a new show, their weekly show that publishes on Mondays called Booze News Weekly. You can go to youtube.com/Homebrew Happy Hour. Check out episode 1. I covered Monster Beverage buying Canarchy. I covered Sierra Nevada's new Hop Splash. It's a sparkling hop water. Covered the industry, how much craft made in or how much online alcohol retail sales were in 2021, and a lot more news. And you get my commentary whether you like it or not. So thankfully, the show's been well received. I'm looking forward to doing more. And there goes Todd. He just took off from this again. Anyway, James, we're going to continue the show. I could do
no problem.
I could do this parts without him. The January recipe for Trub Club members, they're shipping out now. We got our yeast in today. This is Thursday, the day we're recording and the day we publish this, from Imperial. Our friends at Imperial sent us flagship, which is going out with the Smash the Galaxy IPA. It's a Todd brewed it. I got to taste it a little. It's going to be good. If you like Galaxy, you're going to love this because it is chock full. I think each 5-gallon recipe is 5 ounces of it, isn't it?
Wow.
I
don't know. I haven't looked at.
Yeah, it's 5 or 5.5.
I haven't brewed that, so.
Wait a minute.
Imagine that.
You haven't brewed that. Weird. I haven't either. But Todd took one for the team.
I'm strange like that, though.
I'm strange like that. Todd took one for the team, and he's brewing it for us. And that's how I prefer hoppy beers. Let Todd brew them because he gets the style down. He nails it well.
You can have my share,
and then I
can just take my share home.
I'll tell him that. Like James doesn't want his share of this one. So yeah, that's for if you go to patreon.com/ here comes Todd Homebrew Happy Hour. You can still get in on the January recipe kit. And then we also have our January giveaway for a beer line cleaning kit that is going to be from catconnection.com, along with the 16-ounce bottle of Sandstep sanitizer. That drawing will be at the end of the month. More details are at patreon.com/ homebrew happy hour. Just in time, Mr. Burns, for you to join us. What is going on with you today? What did you do now?
I closed my computer because usually I close it and then it goes to the 2 main screens. But when I closed it, it totally killed everything. I guess something must be different since I changed the cable out. But sorry about that.
The new title of this episode is Old People and Technology. Anyway,
fair enough.
I got us through all the small talk, Todd, because now
thank goodness. See, I should do this every month, every week.
And you interrupted my listener feedback bumper. This week's listener feedback comes from our buddy Jacob P. He sent a text in to 325-305-6107. Jacob wrote, as a longtime listener, I wanted to say great job interviewing Jeremy K. from Founders. You guys should do more interviews with brewmasters. Keep up the good work. Jacob, I agree. That episode went good. I feel like we all had a good time. Jeremy was a fun guy. I'd like to go there in person and hang out with him. I bet he'd be a blast like Matt Meadows was at New Belgium. Remember the time we had Todd with Matt?
Oh yeah, that was fun.
A ton of fun. So I thought he was frozen. Didn't he look frozen there for a while, James?
No, I am. It's so for some reason maybe that cable's not as good. So now it's saying I have slow resources. I need to shut stuff down. So I'm trying to shut everything down I possibly can.
Okay, good. Well, that's a good rule of thumb anyways, because if you ever open Todd's computer, 18,000 tabs in Chrome, his poor processor's like, help me, and the fan's blaring. He's like, no, all computers do that. Anyway, we do have questions for y'all. Our first question of the week comes from a different Jeremy. Using the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com, Jeremy wrote, prepare yourself for the most new brewer type of question possible. I haven't been brewing very long. I'm buying the Grainfather G40 soon and moving from 5-gallon extract to 10-gallon all grain. My question is, how come when you scale up a recipe, nothing changes with mash and boil times? I've been given recipes from my brew buddies, and theirs are all for 5-gallon batches, so when I scale up in an app, the grain bill goes up, the grains go up, obviously, but mash time and boil time remains at 1 hour each. Am I overthinking this? You would think that more grains would require longer times. Jeremy, I've never thought of this before, James.
It's I can tell you the easiest, quickest answer because that's a process of the mashing. It's not recipe or ingredients. It's just a process. So you just mash for 60 minutes. That's the process of mashing grains to sugars. And because of the fact that whether you can scale that up all you want, commercial brewers do a 60-minute mash. That's part of the process of brewing.
Yeah, and I guess I get the root of his question. If is it going to be a fundamentally different wort if you have a 60-minute mash on this amount compared to this amount? Like, but I mean, and the answer is no. I just don't know why. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's just it generally takes that long. It can take shorter. I mean, yeah, McCoy does a 30-minute mash and has had good practice. But, it's 60 minutes is more than enough time to get in there and have the starch conversion take place. So it's just the standard rule of thumb is 60 minutes.
And that was my understanding too, like you just said, that some people do try to get away with 25, 30-minute mash and have, like you said, good results. They're not
Yeah, and the boil's the same way. 1 hour boil is plenty enough time for the hops to allow the isomerization of the hops into bittering units. So it's just a process that people have been doing for long time.
Yeah. And when I saw his question, and Jeremy, I don't think, Todd has heard a lot of dumb questions from me and not even from people submitting them. Todd, would this even be in your top 3 of terrible questions or newbie questions? I think it was actually pretty good. It's pretty creative because there's, right? It's not a bad question.
No.
I was trying to throw you more than just that. I love your face. You were so... Gosh darn it, Todd. But obviously, this is a quick question, and we can move on from it. But before I do, to drag it out, because that's what I do, when you boil longer, James, is it because you're trying to make up something for your numbers, or is there ever a time where you go, I need a 90-minute boil, or I need a longer mash?
German brewers, especially, I've been told a lot of Kolsch breweries will do a 90-minute boil. And that is because it's such a delicate beer. They don't want any DMS in there at all. And it may be the fact that they don't use as highly modified malt as we do here in the United States, but don't really see a need to do a 90-minute boil. I've done it in the past just to try to copy what they do over in Germany. But a lot of times, Todd and I both have done it on brew days where we boiled longer just to get the gravity where we want it to be.
Right. And that's what I meant. Like if you guys are usually using a longer boil to achieve something for your numbers, for your gravity, not because, I like 90-minute boils or I like what, I mean.
No, we're not doing 90 minutes to achieve something different for our gravity. Well, I'm not.
Oh, well, I mean, I've in the calculator, if I'm like, oh crap, my numbers and the resolution is, boil it off.
Yeah.
You're just trying to boil it down.
That's what. Yeah.
I'll get, as you lose more to evaporation, the gravity numbers climb. So if I'm low on gravity, I'll do an extended boil if I want to hit a specific number.
Exactly.
I can't remember which recipe it was, but one of the 3 recipes I brewed lately had a 90-minute boil on the recipe.
Was it a lager probably? Or Pilsner?
Yeah, I think it may have been. I think it may have actually been that.
Lemon drop?
Lemon drop. I can't remember, though. I'll have to go back and look.
I wonder why I would have that on there. I need to revisit the
That was your recipe. That's true. That was your recipe. Yeah. Maybe it was because that was when, like you said, you're mimicking what the Germans do. And then Lorena would go, they wouldn't do lemon drop.
She exactly would. But you know what?
She loved it.
She didn't want to try it. Didn't want to. When she finally did, she liked it.
She loved it. She didn't just like it. She loved it. She doesn't want to admit that. Anyways, Jeremy, quick answer. Thank you for submitting the question. This is a great time to remind y'all, if and when we take your question on a future episode, we do give you a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com. Moving on. Question number 2 came from our buddy Tim, who also used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Tim wrote, Trub Club member here. I've been backlogged with recipes, my problem, not yours, and finally brewed the November Kolsch. Well, when it came time to throw my yeast in, I must have already been a few drinks in because I used the pats of Imperial House that I had from another kit instead of the Dieter you sent with the Kolsch. Is this batch ruined? What happens when you use the wrong strain of yeast in a batch? I'm sure it will be drinkable, but is there anything I should expect to be different? Cheers from Maine. Well, Tim, I want to give him a hard time because I know Tim. The bad colors are different. Like one was green and one was yellow.
I suspect it's going to be a Kolsch with a British accent.
That's good. I like that.
Well, the cool thing about house yeast is if you ferment at a colder temperature, it's really clean. So I don't think you would be disappointed in how it turns out if you ferment it at a fairly cold temperature. I mean, I think that thing will go down into the mid 60s. But with any yeast, if the warmer it is, the more estery it'll get. So if you're fermenting it at around 70 degrees, you're probably going to taste a little bit of esters. But I think you'll still have a very, very good drinkable beer.
Now, I don't know if wrong is the appropriate word, but you, Todd, I believe, did accidentally bring home the wrong yeast for one of your batches recently. And
Well, it didn't matter because none of them took off anyway.
oh, okay. Well, I was gonna say though,
Yeah,
but you
we just talked about that.
but I don't remember if you actually used them, even though you had noticed that they were wrong.
Yeah, I used them. They were all lager yeast, and they were real similar. I mean, super similar yeast. So I just threw. I actually had 3 kinds. I grabbed them, and it was all James's fault. James distracted me. We were looking at dates, and I grabbed them from they were in the same bin, but I didn't realize that we had multiple ones in the same bin. So I grabbed them and I took them home. And I get home and I have 3 different kinds of yeast. Well, one of them was a San Francisco steam beer yeast. I forgot what they call that one, but anyway,
Cable car.
I didn't use
California Common.
Yeah, California Common. So I didn't use that one, but I used the other ones, and I combined them together, and neither one of them worked. So I put dry yeast in.
And I said cable car. Pardon me. That is Imperial's steam beer strain, but California Common was the style that you use that for. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, I know. We went over that. I just remember you telling me recently that you were like, "Oh, I got the yeast," and then, "Oh God, these aren't right at all." I've fortunately don't store enough yeast to make this issue or make this mistake. James, have you ever accidentally, not out of necessity, put the wrong yeast in and we're just like, oh, let's see what happens now?
Oh yeah. It's we were doing one of the first times we ever tested yeast. I poured the wrong one in a bucket, and it happens, especially if you've had a few beers. But the good thing is most of the time it's going to turn into something that's unique and delicious.
Yeah.
I noticed you mentioned that, James. I've noticed that in dry January, I'm a really good brewer. I mean, I never mess up I usually brew really early in the morning, so I never mess up those beginning steps. It's always those end steps that get a little shaky. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember one of the first videos I ever watched on YouTube about it was about transferring your wort into your carboy. And this guy, he was walking around. Clearly he was in his basement. He never had a scene without a beer in his hand. He dropped the tube onto the floor that was in the carboy. He picked it up, put it back in, and I was like, that's not what I was told that you should do, and you could tell clearly he'd had a few beers.
Yeah.
So,
let me tell you the feedback, James, because you weren't on the episode with Lorena. She posted it on Homebrew Talk, where she's a very, very beloved moderator, and people were like, "Oh, congratulations!" And one guy was talking about the episode, and his commentary was like, "Oh, you did great, man! You looked like you enjoyed the few you had." The host, was he only sipping on that one? I didn't see him drink much, and that drunk guy on the right. I couldn't count how many he had. So now in our email threads on whatever topics with Lorena, she keeps calling him
guy on the right.
The drunk guy on the right. Okay.
Yeah, she did. Drunk guy on the right on the last one.
At Homebrew Con, we need to get Homebrew Happy Hour t-shirts, and on the back of Todd's, you can put, I'm the drunk guy on the right.
Just drunk guy on the right.
I love it. That's perfect. Yes, deal. Done. We're making that shirt for you, Todd. Perfect.
Okay, I'm in.
So
you make it, I will wear it.
As long as it's not just one big logo of vinyl.
But I gotta be on the right of y'all the whole time we're walking around.
That's true. So it'd be one of those I'm with stupid shirts. Yeah. To wrap up,
I'm with the drunk guy.
I'm with the drunk guy on the right.
I like this.
Okay, wrapping up Tim's question, we all agree ruined is not the right word. It's going to be potable. It's going to probably be delicious because you happen to use a clean finishing yeast. The lower you can get it in primary, the better, right, James? In regards to the
cleaner
range.
it'll taste. It's just like any yeast, but with house, it's a really clean fermenting out beer at colder temperatures. It's a real versatile yeast. So if you like esters, ferment a little higher temperature. If you don't, it gets cleaner the colder it gets. But I wouldn't go in the low 60s. I'd probably stop at around 65, 64 degrees.
Now,
see, alt beer means old beer in German. So why don't you call it an old extra special bitter?
Yeah,
well
old ESB.
Well, it was a Kolsch though, right? That he was trying to brew.
Yeah, that was the joke.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, because he's using them.
Oh, the house. Well, I mean, English ale strain. He would have used Kaiser, I guess, if it was an old beer. But anyway.
Sorry. Yeah.
But that's not a bad yeast to make that mistake with. So I think you'll be fine.
Yeah. I think you'll be fine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you pitched a wheat beer yeast, I probably would be.
I mean, it probably won't be a Kolsch, but I think it'll be a good beer.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it.
And like you said, James, you nailed it. He happened to pick a strain. That if it was a Belgian one or something, like you said, it would be like, you're gonna have it. It'll be potable, but you might not like it because it'll be so different of a finish. But this won't be similar. Now, though, he has a pack of Dieter. Is there another style you would say he could use the Dieter for, or just an excuse to brew more Kolsch in the future?
Anytime. The cool thing about that yeast is it's also clean. So it's Kolsch. It's pretty darn near a lager in flavor. There's some other things going on, but it's a clean, nice, flavorful beer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think you gotta come up with a good name for it. Like, remember when James brewed the
Blonde Salt?
Blonde Salt? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And thankfully, though, like you said, if it does have too many esters, it'll be like my Kolschweizen, which is not the name you want. That's not the ending that you want for your Kolsch friend. But anyways, Tim, thank you so much for submitting the question as well. Moving on to our third question for this week was a text message from our buddy Vincent. Our hotline is 325-305-6107. He wrote, I'm new to kegging. I put the black connector on the keg post, and now it feels stuck and won't come off. I can see the smallest in, like the word in, under the post, so that must be my air side. But why would the connector go on it so easy? Why would the black connector go on it so easy? Help. Yeah, man, that's one of the things we've talked about in the differences between ball lock and pin lock. And I always say is my favorite thing about a pin lock in the pros and cons is you can't do this mistake on a pin lock keg. You can't put a gas piston on the liquid side because they're different pin connectivity. So you can't latch it on. Now on the ball lock ones, you're like, oh yeah, it went on easy. That's great. It goes on this side. Oh man, my liquid's on my gas. I'll just take it off. Like, what on earth is it about them, Todd, that makes them stick like that? And then what do you do when they get stuck? Is it just brute force?
I had a call. I wonder if that was who called me on Sunday. And I think it was actually an email on Sunday, and I ended up calling the guy because he was like, I can't get it off. I'm trying to serve beer. So I called him, and he had basically done the same thing. But what I told him to do was to pull up on the collar, and he's like, the collar's already pulled up. And I looked at the photo he sent me, and you could see the balls. So it was pulled up. And I just had him take a kind of a flat piece of metal, like a bar that you would use to get nails out. He had one of those. And I said, just get up underneath it and press up against the keg and just push it off. Cause he was to the point where he had tried everything and he was ready to cut it off. Right. And I said, well, try that first. And he texted me right back and said it came off. So that seemed to work well. He just used a pry bar is the word I'm looking for. He used a pry bar to get it off. And it was kind of damaged a little bit, but he sent me a photo and said, do you think this would work still? And I looked at it and the inside didn't look bad. So I think it worked fine because I didn't hear from him again. But he had put the gas side on the liquid side, I think. Is that what he said he did? there?
This guy said he put liquid. He put the black connection on.
This is backwards. But anyway, it just, they're just different sizes. I mean, you could get them on, but they get stuck. I mean, I've seen a lot of them stuck. When we've bought kegs, there's been disconnects that have been probably stuck on there for 5 years and stored somewhere. And we always were able to get them off, but they're not easy to get off sometimes.
James, you are the distant man. I'll throw it to you as well for your expertise. Do you get these kinds of questions emailed to you?
Not a whole lot. Not with the Becker disconnects. So the tolerances are so tight that if you have an inferior product we've run into testing competitors' disconnects. You could just flip them on either side. It didn't make a difference.
Yeah.
So I know when you run into something like that, it is possible to put a Becker, but you have to really push to get it on there. And I've done that in the past, just not meaning to. And I usually, what works for me is I'll twist it clockwise as I pull up, and it'll usually come off. But the tolerances between a liquid and a gas are just very minute.
Now, again, we don't have to go into the whole history of General Beverage and their commissioning of kegs and then Coca-Cola and their commissioning. But I will say Coca-Cola did it right with the pin lots. Like you
can't mix those
You
up.
can't. And it's brilliant for a dum-dum like me. I'd never call you, Vincent, a dum-dum. You're not a dum-dum. This happens to the best of us. But it
just seemed like he was saying that, Vincent. I mean,
I would never. That we usually use ball lock because we have way more of them, but I'm always happy to put pin lock on because I don't have to think about it. I just have to go, It's like the game that kids play where the triangle goes in the triangle hole and the square goes in the square hole, and you can't you try to put the triangle in the square and it's not working. It won't let you. Or like you said, the other game or with ball lock post, you can switch them, and that can be difficult. What were you going to say, Todd?
No, there's always a groove cut on the gas post. So down below, usually where the wrench flat is, where the wrench flats are, you'll see a groove, and the liquid post is always smooth. So that's what you want to look for.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Maybe see if I have a post down here. I could show you.
A lot of times too, the tank post will have a different hex. The part that you grab onto to screw it off, the gas side will be like a 14 or 12 point, and the other one will be 6 point for liquid. We see that too. But Todd's right.
In me, most of my kegs, the vast. He doesn't have his.
I happen to have some sample posts that manufacturers sent me, and you can see since some of you are on video, you can see the groove on this one, and it's smooth on that one.
Yeah, unfortunately you're pixelated, but it is still noticeable. I can still see it good.
The one on the right.
That is good to know, because the vast majority of my kegs at home also happen to have in and out written on the keg, on the correct post, out being liquid out, in being gas in. And so, I mean, I'm just a stickler for making sure I read it correctly.
But a lot of them don't.
No, I agree. So, that's what I'm saying. Your little trick, I think I knew that, the groove. But and James, what you said too, the hex, if you can remember.
Yeah, there's a 12 point on the gas and then a 6 point on the liquid.
Right. Yeah. Obviously a lot of these kegs, they're all different, they're unique, whatever. But when you have your set of kegs, you will find a way, if they don't have the actual writing on there, to come up. Either that or Vincent, in the future, it might be worth putting a little marking of your own to make sure something you recognize, like, hey, the little thing that I scratched on this side, that's liquid. I know it's liquid, and only the black disconnect goes on that side. Because, again, you don't want to run into that where you put it on and it gets so difficult to take off, and it's not fun, and it hurts my hands. The one time I had to do it, it hurt my hand. It didn't feel good. Maybe that's why I don't feel anything in this hand anymore, James, and boiling wort doesn't affect me anymore.
Not that day.
Yeah. I also wanted to tell you, Todd, I didn't want to interrupt you, and our friends like Emily, Josh, you suck, whatever her last name is, doesn't listen anymore. But you gave me so much good clip content when you were explaining that initially. We were like, when you lift it up, your balls, and then this, and put your hand gesture, everything. Oh, you're gonna have a chef's kiss of a time making a clip out of that. Anyway, Vincent, thank you so much for submitting your question. We are flying through this episode, which is surprising because of Todd's mishaps with his laptop. Moving on to our fourth and our final question for this week's episode came from our buddy Howard, who also texted us at 325-305-6107. And he wrote, I'm ready to brew more frequently. I bought my own mill and I'll be buying grains and hops in bulk. What are your favorite grains and hops to use and always keep on hand? What grain is most commonly used in the widest variety of beer styles? I'll answer his first part of the question. If you just have Pilsner malt and Vienna malt and a noble hop like Hallertau, boom, there's a Kolsch, baby. That's a Kolsch. Yeah. That's all you need. That's all you need on hand, and you can have that,
brother.
A little Carapils too.
Little Carapils. But if I only had to pick two, I would pick Pilsner and Vienna. And
we all knew that was coming. That was coming for you,
brother.
Okay, Todd. You tell us then. What are your choices if you were buying bulk for you to use in the most wide variety? Because you are probably the most veritable brewer of the three of us. You'll one day be doing a Belgian triple and the next
I've been thinking about doing a Belgian triple or quadruple because we have a bunch of this. I know some of you aren't watching, but this is extra dark candy syrup, Belgium candy syrup, and I'm like, we have a bunch of this. I should brew a Belgium. So my answer is that it's a horrific thought to me to only have a few kinds of grain because then I wouldn't be able to brew. But I mean, the obvious answer is there's 4 main base grains, and the ones that you use the vast majority of the time. It depends on what you like to brew. If you like to brew British beers, you're going to have Maris Otter. If you like to brew American beers, you're going to probably have Two Row. And if you like to brew lagers, you're probably going to keep Pilsen around. So it really depends on what you like to brew. I like to brew all 3, so I want all 3 around. So I can't really. I mean, if you put a gun to my head and said what, I guess I would probably. I don't know. I'm going to say Pilsen or Two Row.
Yeah, that's me. Yep.
And then what about versatile hops? I'll let you answer it first, James. What would you go with the German noble hop?
That's such a loaded question for James. I don't even. We already all know the answer.
Yeah, Hallertau,
Pearl,
German tradition. But noble. It'd be noble hop. Yeah, for sure. But Cascade's a good all-around, all-purpose hop. That was one of the first hops used in the United States for brewing beer. You can't go wrong with Northern Brewer. That's another good hop to have around. It's versatile. Citra is a good citrusy hop if you like citrusy flavors and aromas. Hops is a whole different area. But if I was doing grain, I would have Pilsen or Two Row. I'd have Carapils for just protein and head retention. Maybe some Vienna, some 20, 30, 40, 20, 40, 60 caramel malt. And that way you can do your ambers and you can do your darkers. You can and maybe some chocolate malt added to get your color for a stout. It wouldn't take a whole lot of different types of malts, grains to do several different types of beers, but you're going to need, 5, 6 different types. But it starts with your base malts, and Todd's exactly right. You got Two Row, Pale Malt, Maris Otter, and you got Pilsen. And that's your foundation. That's your concrete of your house. And then everything else going on, I pretty much put Carapils in everything because, who doesn't like a little creamy topped head of beer?
Exactly. No, and like you said with the Kolsch, I was joking about or talking about, it makes a huge difference when you add just a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit. Or actually, that's Caravienne, isn't it? Or is it Carapils?
Caravienne is what I add
that's
to
right.
when I do
not Carapils, my bad. You
Kolsch.
That's right.
It just adds that little bit of sweetness that I like in a Kolsch.
I think
I'm getting away from that going into the drier beers. I'm kind of like Todd. I'm getting to where I like
you have started
beers.
Shifting. I've noticed that. I think what I find funny is Howard obviously got bit by the bug. In a year, he's going to be like, all right, I opened up a wholesale grain shop and I couldn't decide. I couldn't decide which ones to keep. So now I supply my local breweries with it and I keep what I need. This is the beginning.
That's what I did. I started a homebrew supply store lost a lot of money for a few years, and now I have an incredible selection of grain to choose from.
I'm going to get you another shirt for HomebrewCon that goes, I started a homebrew supply shop, and all I have left is
terrible.
Josh.
Call him Debbie Downer, man.
Yeah,
But I do have a lot of grains to choose from and hops.
Yes, you do. It's amazing. It's really cool when we're like, what are we going to brew today? You know?
Yeah. But then going up there like white wheat malt. What the hell? White wheat malt.
Like 30
Oh, yeah,
feet,
we have a
3
lot.
rows. Yeah.
We have a lot of white wheat malt. Somebody please send us a recipe for using white wheat malt that isn't a wheat beer. That's what we want.
Yeah,
That's right.
Or if you're interested in bulk buying, here we go.
Yeah, we got you covered on white wheat.
I have to edit this all out now so we could go to the top and say, Howard, we would stock up on white wheat malt.
Howard, that's right. That's my suggestion. White wheat malt. Give us a call and we're going to help you out.
We're going to give you a heck of a deal, man. I tell you what, we just source some from you for you, and we'll
20L caramel malt. We got a bunch of that
caramel.
too.
That's right. You're going to make a hell of a beer with some 20L.
We'll use that though.
Yeah.
You will use the
definitely.
20L. Yeah, the white wheat. And Trump Club members, y'all should thank me because we've had that white wheat for a while, and it's like, we could come up with something for them, and I'm like, no, we can't.
No, actually, we were going to at one point, and then I was like, but there's so many people that aren't really. I mean, there are some recipes you could put it in that are not a banana shake, and that's that. There are some things you could use it, but it's always small quantities. If you're using large quantities, so it's different, right? So
yeah,
absolutely.
A good lawnmower beer, you could add a small percentage of wheat to it.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. But yeah, and we're kidding. But honestly, though, if you are interested in bulk buying it, call Todd. He has some stuff, and he can probably help you out a little bit there. So yeah, guys, that's all I have for this week. Todd, I'm going to walk over there here shortly and try to help you figure out your broken technology. Your laptop is it's your dock, right? It's not your laptop. It's your dock that's broken.
Yeah, and I found a cable for it. I think I'm going to order another one because this one may be a little compromised or something. I don't know.
I thought we got you a new dock, but you said that's at your home office.
Yeah, we did. I did get a new one for when I set up my home one.
Get you one of those for the office now.
Maybe so.
They're pretty affordable. But anyways, people at home don't need to hear this. Thank you guys so much for all the questions. Thank you for y'all's time. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page. Or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsor, Imperial Yeast. You'll get a free pack of Imperial Yeast with your monthly recipe kit when you join our Chub Club at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.